As I went about my day, out of nowhere, for reasons I could not even explain, I would suddenly feel my heart start racing, my pulse quickening, I'd even start sweating sometimes, and I'd even feel this impending sense of doom and gloom. And this period lasted about 7 months. Today I want to talk to you about a personal experience that I've never shared with anyone before. It was the time I started having anxiety attacks, and this was extremely new for me. Real quick, my name is Shope. I'm a recording artist and founder of Culture Rich World. My goal with this channel is to give you great music and great insights. Let's get into it. I will admit that prior to my own anxiety attacks, I didn't really understand or empathize with people who struggle with anxiety. Because I count myself as someone who is emotionally resilient and pretty logical, to me, panicking about bad possible outcome just never made sense to me. Especially as an entrepreneur, there's kind of this pressure to just plan, execute, and just make it work. There's no time to go into a corner and start crying. And so I always felt anxiety about a possible future over which I have no control about. Just only robs me of my ability to enjoy the present. Like worrying about it now, knowing that I have no control over it, does not in any way reduce the possibility of that outcome. On top of that, I can't even be effective or efficient in the present because I'm in this state of angst and consternation. And so, practically speaking, to me, anxiety never made sense, right? It doesn't make sense to be anxious. It all sounds so logical, right? But around 2021, 2022, I began to notice something really strange, something unfamiliar. I started having these episodes. As I went about my day, out of nowhere, for reasons that I could not explain, I would suddenly start feeling my heart racing, my pulse quickening, I'd even start sweating sometimes, and I'd feel this impending sense of doom or gloom. And this period of these sudden attacks lasted about 7 months. And it was very difficult because I had never experienced anything like this before. Now let me say this, I do not in any way equate my experiences or the experiences of those who struggle with this chronically, who have severe panic attacks, and I don't presume to fully understand your struggle. So this is just my story. But yeah, at first, I couldn't understand why these episodes started. I couldn't even explain it. I just knew it felt strange, especially because whenever these episodes happened, I couldn't really point to a discernible thing that prompted this feeling that was my quote unquote trigger, right? So I started speaking to my wife about it, and having had her own experiences with anxiety, she was the one who said to me, babe, sounds to me like you're having anxiety attacks. And I was like, oh, so that's what this feels like. Now, at the time, I couldn't diagnose why they suddenly started, but with the benefit of hindsight, here are some things that I think contributed to this period of my life. Now, remember what happened to the world in 2020? Yeah, in addition to those external things, there were also some internal personal things that were happening. In February of that year of 2020, I suffered a very significant knee injury. I tore not one, not two, but 3 of the 4 major ligaments holding your knee together. And so this led to 2 major surgeries and intense physio over the next 2 years. Not to mention the fact that moving forward, I just have to live with the fact that one knee is not as strong as the other one, and I kind of have to live with the risk of possibly needing more surgeries later on. And so this injury effectively stopped me from performing the way I've always known how to perform. Luckily, this happened during the pandemic, so I didn't really miss too many shows. But nonetheless, it significantly affected me emotionally and psychologically, because prior to this, I was known for having a very extremely energetic stage show. Like if you've been to a Shope concert pre-2020, then you definitely know that one of my things was the level of energy I would bring. With all of this gone now, I was left asking myself, how in the world can I entertain people if I cannot rely on my energy, right? How can I do this thing that I love doing so much? And so I've had to learn new ways of performing, and I'm still learning. Leading up to this period also, I wasn't resting well, right? I'd been going hard for a number of years, and with winning a national talent competition in Canada in 2019, my schedule just got even crazier, right? So personally, I struggle with taking breaks. I struggle with stopping. I feel as though when I stop, I'm being lazy or like other people are working me, so I just kind of tend to go. But in any case, at this point, I hadn't really developed a good cadence of rest. I was just going, going, going. On top of that, I was also stuck in a cycle of comparison, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. And so comparing my life, right, with the social media highlight reels of other people really stoked in me my feelings of insecurity and fear, which only drove me to work even harder, but for all the wrong reasons. And don't forget that the global shutdown was in effect at this point. So pandemic restrictions and lockdowns were extremely hard on me, or extremely hard on my mind. A contrarian by nature, and it's not always a good thing, I really struggle with somebody telling me what I can or cannot do. And Canada had very strict regulations, and I have my own personal views about that. At any rate, that weighed very, very heavily on my mental. Connected to that was the fact that travel has always been a big part of my wife and I's life. We actually took a trip to Barcelona in January of 2020, kind of just on a whim, not realizing that the world would effectively shut down as soon as we came back. So in hindsight, we were glad that we took that trip, but the following 2 years of isolation in a mostly cold, dark, and highly restricted place like Toronto, Canada, had a significant impact on my mind. And finally, maybe one of the biggest things, during this period of time, I was no longer pursuing music from an attitude of play and exploration. Everything I was doing was metric driven. Everything I was doing was objective driven. I had targets that I had to hit. And so the very thing that used to be a source of joy, that used to rejuvenate me, was now a source of stress. Now, these are just some of the clear and very logical things I can think of that contributed to this season. But I also realized that on a deeper level, I think my subconscious was just trying to process uncertainty and the unpredictability of the future. Now, I don't think it's coincidental that this happened during the pandemic. At this time, I was riding the biggest wave in my music career ever. And based on how 2020 was shaping up, it looked like it was about to be a breakout year for me. I'm just being honest. After years of struggling and hustling and just doing everything I knew to do to be successful. You see, as someone who's strategic and well thought out, I always try to plan, prepare, execute, and adjust as is necessary. But reality of the matter is this, like there's just certain things that are out of our control, and 2020 showed us that in no uncertain way. I think for the first time in my life, in a major way, I was confronted with the fact that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how talented I thought I was, no matter how gifted I thought I was, there was always the possibility that something could go terribly wrong and I had absolutely no control over. And that scared me. And that's where the anxiety attacks kicked in. So what happened? How did I overcome these attacks? Well, here's a list of things I did and still do. First, I took a literal month off social media. I didn't need those external influences clouding my mind and clouding my judgment. I also took some time off of music and creating in general. I felt like I had to develop a hunger for it again to, once again, not see it as metric driven, right? But as a feeling to communicate, right? To just be creative again for the sake of being creative. Also, whenever I felt the pressure rising, rather than just ignoring it and just trying to push through like I always did, I made it a practice of stopping and practicing mindfulness, bringing my mind into focus, into the present moment, which was very helpful in calming me during these periods. I also went back to journaling. Now, this is a practice that I've done on and off for several years, but during this period specifically, I was very intentional to write my thoughts and write my feelings down, which is very helpful for me to process what I was thinking and to gain a deeper understanding of my own emotions. I also spoke to my wife about it, as I mentioned, and I reached out to some friends who also provided some support, and that was incredibly helpful. And finally, I spent more time in prayer and in my Christian faith. I had to remind myself of who God says I am, that my worth and my value are not based on my accomplishments or lack thereof. That my faith tells me that through Jesus, God says I'm his child, right? And there's nothing I can do to make him love me more or less than he already does. And my value comes not from what I am, an artist or an entrepreneur, but from whose I am. And my faith tells me that I am his. Engaging in these practices really, really helped. And it's been quite a while since I've had any of these attacks, and I'm thankful for that. Today, life is up and down, and just like everybody else, I have regular human emotions, but definitely not at the level or to the degree as it was during that season. Now, I've already said a lot in this video, and I hope that between my reasons for the anxiety attacks as well as some of the things that I did to overcome it, that you found something that you can pull out of this and then apply for yourself. But let me leave you with just a few more takeaways. Now, if you're someone like I used to be who has never struggled with anxiety or had anxiety attacks, then amen, I'm happy for you. This experience gave me a new perspective and compassion for those who struggle with this every day, and I hope it does the same for you. I used to think that it was just something that you could just get over, but now I understand that it's not that easy. It's not that simple. It's much deeper than that. Chronic anxiety is a real and debilitating condition that millions of people around the world struggle with, and it's not something that can easily be overcome. Like I said earlier, I don't presume to fully understand the struggles of those who suffer with this on a regular basis, but I do see you more now than I did before, and I hope something in this video speaks to you. So if you're struggling with anxiety, know that you are not alone, and it's okay to seek help and take small steps every day towards overcoming it. The artists and entrepreneurs out there who feel stuck in this system of having to suck it up and get the job done, be mindful. This life of industry and commerce is fast and it's tough and it requires a strong mind. But even strong minds can break if not given the rest, the care, and the attention that they need. You are allowed to have moments of weakness, of pause, of rest. Do it for your business, do it for your loved ones, and do it for yourself. If you found value in this, then I hope you will support by hitting the like button and sharing this with a friend. Especially with a topic like this, this is so critical, and I know a lot of people struggle with this, so be sure to hit the like button and share it with a friend. Next thing you can do is be sure to subscribe to the channel, because that goes a long way towards helping me put out more great content like this. And the other thing you can do is sign up for the Culture Rich World mailing list. There are a lot of perks that come with it, access to early drops, plus, in fact, all new subscribers to the Culture Rich World mailing list can get one of these for absolutely free. So these are our branded tote bags, and you get one for free simply for joining the mailing list. Now check this out for some great music, and this for some more great insights. I'll see you next time.
I'll admit it. Yeah, I get it. You been holding me down for a minute. I've been taking too long, I'll admit it. Yeah, I'll admit it.